I'm Aisha Anastasiou, Inward Investment Lead at Ealing Council, working on good growth for Ealing. Originally, the North Acton Square was a petrol station, and Ealing Council was able to purchase the area and work collaboratively with TfL to transform the area into what it is today, is a beautiful, very green, accessible space for residents, students and businesses. The most exciting thing about the changes of happening in North Acton is that it was underused. There was nothing there. We had an awful lot of residents there, but with nothing else. We've been really lucky to work with some amazing people and generate some conversation about what should be on the North Acton Square. And we were able to work with the London Festival of Architecture to position these new fantastic designed benches. It's really looks really cool that, these installations look amazing, and they are just, kind of the start of something really different for that area. And so we want it to be very engaging. We want people to start talking and also to use the safe environment of outside as we come out of our lockdowns in a few weeks' time. And I think it was really important that we encourage people to gather and sit and really kind of look around them and see what's happening, but get the chance to give us some feedback as well.
Kommune Studio is a design and research think tank that was started by myself, Faye, and Irfan earlier this year. We had been thinking about it for a while. The three of us met at the University of Cambridge studying towards an MPhil in architecture and urban design, during which we spent 2 years focusing on very niche conditions that we had each developed and researched immensely, of these conditions and surprising phenomena in cities around the world that had affected marginalized communities and communities who were persecuted and targeted either due to their religion, their ethnicity, or economical status. And in-depth research, on-site fieldwork, investigation, interrogation of the city, gaining first-hand information from people from within those communities firsthand really has shaped the way that we see design and the way that we see architecture today.
We want to go beyond the drawing on the screen and engage with the built environment in many different ways, such as writing and material testing and making. So for this project, a piece of public furniture, and our very first project as a collective, the process of completely designing, researching, testing, making and assembling everything ourselves was important to us as designers, but also as citizens who are regular users of public space.
The idea for the bench came as a reaction to, first of all, the London Festival of Architecture's theme of care this year, and the idea that we'd been playing around with, and so have all other designers and architects, people living in cities, which is the post-pandemic city. And it was a reaction to the change in human behavior over the past year and a half, and the change in perspective of public space and of being able to sit in a space with other members of within your community or other members of the public of all ages. And so the concept of the bench is very much rooted in the idea of modular construction, and a type of construction that is flexible enough to be able to change over its lifespan as a piece of public furniture, but also as a piece of design that belongs to the council. And so the modular construction of the bench itself allowed us to create 2 modules, each of which are mirror images of one another. And so the modules themselves are actually quite simple. One would be with an extrusion and one would be an opening, and they would interlock into each other to create a herringbone pattern and to be able to stack vertically. However, the idea that these modules are repeated and sort of creating a kit of parts, if you say so, IKEA parts in a way that allows us to reinvent this bench over and over again. It can be recreated, rebuilt, and disassembled and reassembled into various different things. And this design was, in a way, their reaction to care is how to future-proof this design and to make it as sustainable, make its lifespan as long as possible.
Normally, when we think about public furniture, you always think about like a bench that's permanently fixed to the ground. It's not very adaptable and you can't really change it into other shapes. But with our bench, because we build it out of these modular bricks, so you see it as a bench for now, but then after this, what's the next step? We really want to design something that could be used in all seasons and for different types of uses. In terms of the material selection, the colorful bricks are actually made out of concrete.
We chose to use concrete because we thought it would be interesting to highlight the way that it can be used alternatively. It's a material used a lot in the construction industry, usually known as a structural pragmatic material. So we wanted to add a playful quality to that by showing how it can present a completely different aesthetic and how it can be incorporated into a flexible design project by being reused and adapted.
The process of making this bench began with us experimenting with 1 to 100 samples to get an understanding of the types of colors, pigments, textures, and coatings that we are able to achieve. It then moved on to understanding the ratios in order to make the concrete bricks structural in their own right. And then, of course, to create an economical way of designing molds that can be assembled and disassembled repeatedly over the course of making these bricks one by one. Start to finish, the entire making process involved many smaller steps that were each very important, such as getting the ratios right, making sure there are no air bubbles, and then as well being aesthetically pleasing as a structural element in itself. In that sense, it was really quite fun experimenting with the colors. No brick is an exact replica of another, and each brick is unique, and their overall composition when assembled together is quite spectacular. As I think the story of design and making the bench is evident in the individual units. So when you look up close, you can see how this bench was made. You can see how each unit was made. You can see the timber grain that's been imprinted on the surface of the concrete. You can see the imperfections and the cracks and the sort of honest and raw materiality that is present despite being a playful and colorful and pigmented concrete bench. We try to keep it as raw and honest as possible without perfecting it too much. The imperfections were quite surprising and it created a wonderful handcrafted feel, and it felt more personal when we kept these little imperfections in the bench. In a sense, the story of making it is quite a unique trajectory, as we had decided that we would make and manufacture this entire thing entirely by ourselves, and it was a fun story of design and make, I would say.
This is one amazing aspect of the project, because normally, like when people think about architects, they feel like we only do drawings on computer or on paper, like we don't actually make stuff. But I think this is actually a very interesting aspect of Kommune as well. We like to design and make.
During the pandemic, we've seen how urban life has had to adapt. Our cities and our use of space has changed in the home, in the workplace, and in the public realm. So with this in mind, we would say that the impact that we want our bench to have is twofold. Firstly, we wanted the bench to make a statement by making sure that it was completely handmade, with no machinery involved in the making process. This element of labour and craft lends itself to the theme of care at this year's festival. And secondly, we wanted to draw attention to the growing importance and need for adaptability within civic infrastructure and architecture, and design in general.
We saw this design of the bench as an opportunity to be able to celebrate public space again, and to celebrate our presence as a whole, as a city, as citizens of this city, to be able to enjoy each other's company and our cities again. And we thought it was a great way to do this with a colorful and playful introduction into this newly regenerated square of North Acton. And North Acton Square really provided us with the perfect blank canvas for such a project.
I think the unique thing with this particular site also is the fact that it's a busy transport interchange. So it's right at the exit and entrance to North Acton Tube Station. And so we created a bold, colourful design which encourages people to stop and make use of the square rather than simply passing through as they do at the moment. And it's interesting that the materiality at close-up is very raw and honest, and you can see the details and imperfections that we talked about. But from afar, it also creates an element of curiosity because you can't instantly tell what material a bench is made from.
It was an enjoyable way of beginning something new. And we think that surprising people with a new take at a bench, and this is something that's been in the public realm for a very long time, is kind of to make you stop and think, all the things we already know, we have had to relook at and change our perceptions on over the past year and a half. And so that doesn't stop with our homes and the way that we use it, but it also extends to our use of cities and public space.